Welcome, and thank you all for being part of this event. My name is Robert Vera. I live here in Phoenix, Arizona, so it's great not to have to get on a plane and travel to go to work. I'm very grateful to be with you all this morning, and hopefully together we can make a positive impact in our Arizona community. Now, this morning I want to talk about a few things. Let me make sure I got my presentation here. So, let's get into it a little bit here. Statistics. In 1 year alone, in the United States, there'll be 1.7 million people that sustain a traumatic brain injury. Out of that 1.7 million, 1,357,000 people will visit the emergency room. Out of those people, some 80% will be treated and released, but that doesn't mean it's over, does it? No. Out of that 1.7 million, 275,000 people will require hospitalization. There'll be 52,000 deaths. That, my friends, is an epidemic. It'll cost, an indirect and direct cost the United States in 1 year alone, $60 billion. Now, I believe that these statistics are conservative. This is the latest data from the CDC, compiled from 2002 to 2006. So I believe these numbers, and I've seen different numbers, I believe these are about 25% below, meaning there's additional TBI cases that we're not counting. So what does this all mean? What's behind these numbers? In Arizona alone, 52,000 deaths. Let's look at that. So not to diminish the sacrifice that our warriors have made, but if we look at the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, we see that in the 15 years in the Iraq war, 36,710 deaths. In Afghanistan, another 20,904. Together combined, this equals about the same number of TBI deaths that we see in this country alone in 1 year. Now, to give you an image of that, I believe this is about 20 to 25% lower than the actual numbers. So if we add 25% of that, if those of you who've been to the University of Phoenix Stadium, it holds about 63,000 people. Fill a stadium up, and that's how many people are dying every year as a result of traumatic brain injury. In Arizona alone, it's costing us $1.2 billion a year in direct and indirect costs associated with traumatic brain injury. There'll be new cases this year in Arizona alone. 21,712 new cases. And my friends, there are no two TBIs that are alike. That's part of the reason why we need a Brain Injury Alliance. So all these reasons are why we need a Brain Injury Alliance. But let's look at what the Brain Injury Alliance does. Last year alone, in 2015, there were 1,600 new cases referred to the Brain Injury Alliance of Arizona. That's 4.4 a day, 30 per week, and 122 per month. Last August, in Payson, Arizona, when it's hot here in August, the Brain Injury Alliance hosted a summer camp for 100 TBI survivors. There were 62 community education exhibits, 52 educational training sessions, 24 active monthly groups. This afternoon, you have the opportunity to go to the brain gym class, right? 24 of those were done last year. 24 community organizations, collaborations with organizations like the Salvation Army, where they did 12 memory classes, 12 healthy living classes, six-part summer music series. In addition to the hospitals that are already referring to the Brain Injury Alliance, there's 5 new ones referring patients. If you have a concussion, they give you information now at the ER. Remember, we saw those ER visits about the Brain Injury Alliance. Masters in social work interns, 2 of them were newly trained in brain injury. And last year alone, there were 2 events just like this one, educational events for the community. Now, what does this all add up to? What does this all add up to? It adds up to hope. It adds up to hope. All those events, all those resources, the Brain Injury Alliance is absolutely essential because it is the one place in our state, the one place where it is a resource of information, people, and additional information that you can get if you have a brain injury. The Brain Injury Alliance is the center for that. It is the center, the nucleus of hope. So, I'm sorry. My story, it began back in 2008 when I was first introduced to somebody with a traumatic brain injury. And we became very close friends. Now at the time, I really didn't know what a TBI was. I had no idea what the symptoms were. And you know, I really didn't have a sense for the extent of the physical and spiritual wound that accompanies a traumatic brain injury. Now, many of you know of my friend, or at least you have heard his story. Those of you who've seen the movie American Sniper or read the book, you may recall hearing a Navy SEAL named Biggles. That's Biggles' character right there, played by Jake McDermott on the left, and that's Bradley Cooper playing American Sniper Chris Kyle. Biggles was Navy SEAL Ryan Jobe. That was my close friend. On August 2nd, 2006, while providing cover for a SEAL team below, Ryan Jobe and Chris Kyle were on a rooftop in south central Ramadi, Iraq, when a shot rang out. The team took cover. Chris was alone on the roof with Ryan. He checked himself for holes in blood, and then he called over to Ryan, who lay slumped over his weapon. Chris called to him again, and he was unresponsive. Chris ran to him, turned him over, and saw an egregious head wound. Ryan Jobe had been shot in the face by a sniper. Now, head wounds are very serious, and they're measured on the Glasgow-Coma scale. This is a neurological scale to provide objective, reliable measure of the consciousness of a patient or a person. There's a numerical system assessed to it. 15 is a fully awake person. We're all 15s in this room. 3 is deep coma or death. As Ryan Jobe laid slump over his weapon, he was a 3. It's amazing, a miracle really, that Ryan Jobe survived. This is Ryan Jobe. You see he has a wound on his right side. His eye was gone. He was totally blind. Now I need to clear up a few things because people ask me this all the time. Well, you know, I saw the movie, I read the book, I thought, anyway, here's the truth. Ryan lived in Arizona for 3 years after he was wounded. He was rendered totally blind. The bullet took his right eye, but he was totally blind due to swelling in the optic channel, the chasm, and then, but it rendered him totally blind. In 2007, after he was wounded, he got married. He medically retired from the Navy in 2007. He graduated from college with honors after he was made blind. And I first met Ryan in 2008. So I remember meeting Ryan for the first time, and you know, I remember he was working really hard, by the way, to overcome his wounds, and really he taught me some amazing lessons in life. Lessons that, if it's okay, I'd like to share with you. Is that okay?
Yes.
So the first day I met Ryan, we sat and drank overpriced coffee in Scottsdale, and he said to me, you know, I have an opportunity to climb Mount Rainier. You want to train with me? I said, yeah, why not? What an adventure. Sure, I'll train with you. I had no idea what that meant, by the way. So the next week, 4:30 in the morning, I showed up at his apartment, I picked him up. we went and hiked around and up the various mountains around Phoenix. Squaw Peak, Camelback Mountain, North Mountain. 4:30 in the morning, Ryan be standing out there totally blind. Didn't know what to, waiting for me with his bag. We both didn't know what we were doing. But Ryan was willing to take action, persist. So the lesson that he taught me, lesson 1 was hard work and perseverance always pay off. So this is Ryan Job, by the way. This is Ryan Job. On the lower slopes of Mount Rainier, he's totally blind. He's climbing a mountain with his hiking poles and listening to someone's voice. Climbing a mountain, cannot see, missing his right eye, cannot see. This is Ryan Job. On top of Mount Rainier, he's the guy in the middle. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mount Rainier, yeah, that's okay. That's all right. Yeah. He's the guy in the middle. I love this. He's the guy in the middle. Surrounded him are the Cascade Mountains. Mount Rainier, for those of you who don't know, is 14,411 feet tall. 50% of the able-bodied people that attempt to climb it don't make it. It's the most glacially covered mountain in the lower 48, by the way. 3 people every year perish trying to get to the top. Hard work and persistence paid off for Ryan Job as he stood on the top of his home state of Washington less than 2 years after he was wounded and almost died on a rooftop in Ramadi, Iraq. Hard work and persistence always paid off. So a couple of months after this picture, I get a call from Ryan. He's like, hey, can you take me to the airport? I took him to the airport all the time because he would do speaking events like this all the time, so I would just take him to the airport. So he gets in the car, we're driving, and I say, hey, where are you headed? And he says, Idaho. Okay. What's in Idaho? Elk hunting. Elk hunting. You know, you need to see them to hunt them, right? He's like, yeah, I got that sorted out. And I said, you know, Ryan, you may not want to mention to the other hunters that you're blind. You know how those guys are. Orange vest and safety first. You know, like, you may not want to let them know that you're blind. And he's like, yeah, you know, I got that sorted out. How do you like your elk? Burgers or chops? You know what? You can surprise me. And 2 days later, he did surprise me. He sent me this picture of a 980-pound elk. He melted it with one shot. Hard work and persistence paid off for Ryan Job. Not so much for the elk, but for Ryan Job, it paid off. Perseverance and persistence always paid off. The second lesson that he taught me was this. The obstacle is the opportunity. See, Ryan's blindness allowed him to overcome things that other people didn't think he could. The obstacle became Ryan's mission. It became his opportunity to prove that he could do things that other people never thought he could do. It was an opportunity for him to show that he really could do these things, that he could achieve greatness in his life despite whatever happened to him. The third thing that Ryan did, and this is a great lesson, I think, for me and for everybody, is Ryan was able to separate the objective from the subjective. Let me give you a good example. Being blind is bad. Being blind is the objective. Being is bad is subjective. Subjective is just an opinion. It's just someone's opinion. It's not the truth. It's not objective. Being blind was objective. Yes, he was blind. It's bad. Ryan inserted, it's an adventure. It's an opportunity. Ryan had fun with it. He made it an adventure for me and for everybody around him. So Ryan had the ability to separate the objective from the subjective. Now, some of you would say, well, nobody would like being blind. Look, I once heard Stevie Wonder, who is blind, had the opportunity to have his sight back, and he said, no thanks, I like it this way. For him, it's okay. Ryan made his blindness an adventure for me and for everybody around him. Self-control. Ryan exhibited extreme extreme self-control in these two areas. Ryan, his attitude and his emotions, he controlled. Look, when things are out of control, when the situation gets out of control, right? Being emotional doesn't help. It just makes things worse. Ryan Job was able to control his attitude and his emotion, and that's why he could separate the objective from the subjective. Number 5, the great equalizer, a sense of humor. There wasn't a time that I was with Ryan Job that my stomach didn't hurt from laughing. He was hilarious. So there are so many Ryan Job stories that I probably can't tell them all here. But I remember one time, so Ryan had about 30 surgeries after he was wounded. And one time he was going in, they're going to replace or create an orbital plate and put it in his eye. So they're at a big room, and there's a table, and Ryan's sitting down at the table, and there's a doctor's up there, and he has his backpack here, and his wife is with him, and there's a vascular surgeon, a neurosurgeon, an ocular surgeon, a whole team, the anesthesiologist, and it's a 3-hour meeting. They're going through all the procedures and all this other stuff, and so they ask Ryan afterwards, who's sitting there, do you have any questions? And Ryan stands up, unzips his backpack, and he pulls out a pair of size 2 bedazzled woman jeans. And they're just looking at him like, what's wrong with this guy? And Ryan says, yeah, I got one question. When you're finished, am I going to be able to fit in these jeans? And he was the talk of the hospital. I mean, they didn't know what to make of the guy. Ryan blamed that on his TBI, by the way. But he just made it fun to be with them. He made things fun. He took the stress off. Because people are uncomfortable when you have a noticeable injury like that. People are uncomfortable. They don't know how to approach you, right? Ryan made everybody approachable. He inserted humor in places that were just perfect, and he made people laugh. Have faith and let go. Now, it's no secret, Ryan was a very strong Christian. And he didn't talk about it, he lived his faith. Now, of course, Ryan Job had goals, right? He'd be a Navy SEAL. Then afterwards, he'd be a Navy fighter pilot. But those were his goals. That was his life. He felt as though that after being wounded, that God had a better plan for him. And being wounded was part of that plan. So he embraced it. He told me once he was going to be the best blind guy ever. I believe that he was. One of the amazing things that he told me is that he said, you know what? I'm grateful that I was wounded. I'm grateful that I was made blind. I'm grateful that it was me who got shot and not the other guys. Ryan was grateful for the opportunities that came because of his blindness, and he never discounted anybody or any one of them. The right relationships equal hope. Now, I think many of you will understand this. All trauma comes with a spiritual wound. And you say, what is that wound? I mean, what are you talking about, a wound, a spiritual wound? It's the wound of loss, the loss of dreams, the loss of goals, the loss of future, and the loss of hope or hopelessness. So how do you heal that spiritual wound? It is the right relationships in our life that heal the spiritual wound. I firmly believe this. How caregivers, that's you, and friends, and that's you, relate to a person with a traumatic brain injury may be more important than any technique, medication, or therapy offered. I firmly believe that. That's my quote, by the way. I firmly believe that. Yes, that's right. You can clap. That's all right. And this brings me to you, right? This brings me to all of you. So this is the Brain Injury Alliance. We are the epicenter. The epicenter of hope. We're the place where resources get disseminated. But you, and the title of this event, by the way, is the Rays of Hope, right? You are all rays of hope. You are all. Every survivor here, TBI survivor, that perseveres and exceeds, goes beyond their prognosis, you empower and provide hope to others with a traumatic brain injury. Your persistence and your understanding of the spiritual wounds that come with trauma, you provide hope to others with traumatic brain injury. See, hopelessness is not medicated away with pills, right? Hopelessness is not cured with therapy. Hopelessness is cured by the right relationships in our life, because they bring opportunity. They're conduits to resources and information. You, this organization, you are the right relationships. I said at the very beginning, I hope that together we can make a positive impact in our Arizona community. Well, that's what we can do. Now, look, I don't want to sound arrogant, right? But I think I'm the right relationship. That's why I'm a member of the Brain Injury Alliance. You can become one too. It's very simple. You go online, you become a member. That camp in August, you can get out of the heat. You can go to August and volunteer, right? You can do that. You can ask one of the staff people here, one of the volunteers, how do I become a member? Now, selfishly, I know that no matter how much I give, having a relationship with Carrie, the staff here, all of you and the survivors, I'm going to get way more out of it than I'll give. And I'm going to gain some more powerful life lessons. So I know some of you are thinking, well, that's a nice story, and thanks for the lessons, right? But how did Ryan Job's brain injury change your life? Well, fair enough. Ryan Job passed from this world September 24th, 2009. Now, it had nothing to do with his brain injury. Ryan was a strong Christian, so he didn't believe that that was the end. I was so moved by Ryan's life and our friendship that I wrote the book, A Warrior's Faith. It was published in March of 2015 by HarperCollins. And it became a #1 bestseller. Yeah, thank you very much. In January of this past year, I was notified that the book earned the Illumination Silver Medal for Best Memoir. Unbelievable. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, and since then, I've worked full-time as an author, a speaker, and a full-time advocate for veterans returning with TBI and post-traumatic stress. All because my buddy Ryan, he got his bell rung pretty good. Now, I know our time is short here, and we've got other great speakers. I frankly want to go here. So I'd like to leave you with one last lesson, if you will. It's not from Ryan, but it's from my favorite philosopher, Carl Jung. He said, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Thank you very much. God bless you all. I look forward to meeting you all later this afternoon. Thank you.